Well, I spend 50% of my time with the farm, 50% of my time with the seed business, 50% of my time with the consulting, 50% of my time. One, two, three.
Coming up, we're talking to the man, the myth, the legend. We're talking to Shay Folk, who is a farmer and entrepreneur. He just launched a brand new app focused on farm profitability and finances. We get into all that he's working on coming up. The Modern Acre is presented by Ambrook. Ambrook is building a more prosperous future for America by giving independent, family-run farms and businesses the financial tools they need to grow and thrive. Be sure to check out all of Ambrook's products and capabilities at ambrook.com. All right, Tim, I just have one question for you. It's Murph season. Are we doing Murph this year?
You just kind of sprung this on me. I haven't been thinking about it. And I'm looking at the calendar. What do we got? We got 4 weeks to basically start our training, right?
Yep. I started my training yesterday. I am very, very sore. But I'm feeling good. I feel like my first Murph training session back, I think I'm stronger than last year. I've been running more than I did last year. So I feel like I needed less time. I'm hoping, knock on wood, I need less time this year to kind of ramp up my training. I don't know if I'll beat last year's time. I was like really dialed in last year, but we'll see. Maybe.
Yeah, I forget what I did it last year. You definitely kicked my butt at it. I haven't done hardly any running, so I got to get my cardio back. I've been doing jiu-jitsu, so different kind of cardio. So,
wait, Tim, you've been doing jiu-jitsu?
Do you do CrossFit, dude?
The only thing worse than CrossFitters talking about CrossFit is jiu-jitsu.
I think I'm gonna go carnivore. Sprinkle in a little paleo. Do you get your blood work done, dude? Functional health.
You are so millennial, bro. I just can't even with you.
Skincare routine just looks maxing, farm maxing, all the things this year, Ty.
My goodness. Well, I'm super excited for Murph. I love the timing of this because last week we had the Numinac guys on the podcast, and Dan is actually active duty military. And this week we're talking to Shay, who's a veteran. And as we gear up for Memorial Day and remembering all those who gave their lives and sacrificed their lives, I was talking to my daughters when I was training yesterday. I was like, do you guys want to do Murph? And I was like telling them about the meaning of Murph and why we do this workout on Memorial Day to remember everyone who sacrificed their lives. So they were super into it. So we're trying to figure out like a kid's variation. For those that don't know, it's a mile. You run a mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and then you run another mile. And then if you want an extra spicy version, you put a weight vest on, a 20-pound vest. So anyone who's interested in doing it, this is your sign to get to training. And the best way to do it is probably work up, do like 25% of the volume, then 50% of the volume, then 75% of the volume to work your way up. Tim, you can just like maybe run around the block to start.
Yeah, I might just like walk up and back the street, just kind of get the wheels into gear. Always fun doing Murph. It's like every year, just like you just kind of like dread it of just like it's uncomfortable, it's painful, it's never easy, and like that's what it's all about is like kind of this thing that you're kind of dreading in the future, and you knock it out and get through it, and it's always a fun tradition.
Yeah, and it's everyone around the country is doing it on that same day. It's just pretty special. So encourage you guys, look up Murph, start training for it now, and we'll let you know who wins, Tim or I. And Tim, we've been talking about a fitness challenge for a while, but maybe summer 2026 we do an official Modern Acre fitness challenge and get people involved.
Yeah, I think Murph is a good jumping off point for fitness challenges. I'm thinking like longest drive. We can get that in queue this summer. That could be a good, fitness test. We did swimming last year. That was a really fun one. Narrowly almost beat you in swimming. That was a good one.
Tim, at this point, the only thing you're going to beat me at is jiu-jitsu, which, by the way, did you know Tim does jiu-jitsu?
That is the summer challenge. I can't wait to choke you out on the 4th of July.
Yeah, I am not fighting you. Okay, well, guys, we are super excited to have Shay on. Shay's been around a long time, has a big Twitter following. He's been doing cool stuff across the farm, their family seed business, and now really relaunching a financial software platform for farmers. They've done some interesting things with pricing. So we get into a lot of that fun conversation of building this app or relaunching this app. So you guys are going to enjoy this conversation with Shay. Let's jump in with what's top of mind for him.
I'm in a Christian business leader peer group that is across industries, and so I'm the only ag one. I'm the smallest fish in the barrel, if you will, there. And one thing I've been focused on really heavily for the last year and a half is kind of what's your kingdom purpose. And so what are the circle of influences that you have in your business, but why, more importantly, do you do what you do? And that's really helped make things a lot easier in my life on grounding how I make decisions within my family, within the organizations that we run. And so I think, when I think about this circle of influence, it's like, the farm is for my family and my church. The seed business is for my community. The AgView Solutions consulting stuff is for like a national impact. And then my time in the service was more of like a global overarching picture. But, why do we do what we do? And really focusing on that kingdom purpose has been huge for our family.
I love that. I mean, that's an amazing framework that you've been able to put together across your endeavors. And I mean, I think that's super important to be able to zoom out and have that purpose is so important because it's like, why are we all working so hard sometimes? It's like really important to take a step back and figure out, is this a life I want to live? And what is it I want to spend my time doing and why? So that's super cool and inspiring, man. So, well, let's learn about you. I know you're a complicated man, Shay, similar to Tim and I have our hands in a whole number of different things. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm an Iowa native from what we call God's country in Northeast Iowa, just south of Waterloo, where a lot of people would be familiar with like John Deere. So grew up in a town, LaPorte City, just south of there. Grew up normal life, involved in agriculture on both sides of the family, and decided that Iowa State University was the best land grant university close by. And so attended Iowa State for agronomy. I had actually tried to join the Marines when I was in high school, and my dad said, no, that's stupid. You need to go to college. And he was probably right. But about halfway through my time at Iowa State, I had this calling on my heart to, join the military. And I felt that because I had the ability to lead, I had the responsibility to lead. And so 9 days after graduated from college, I did the college degree in 3 years, and May 9th, I graduated, and May 18th, I was shipping off to Basic down in Georgia on the enlisted side. So went through training at the Basic, Airborne, and then the Ranger Assessment and Selection Program. Was stationed with the 75th Ranger Regiment out of Savannah, Georgia, where my wife and I spent 4 years, 4.5 years down there. Had 2 deployments to Afghanistan, just was with a phenomenal group of guys. And the reason that I had initially enlisted was because of Christians being persecuted in the Middle East. And so was able to go on missions that directly impacted that. So get to the end of that first contract there in 2019. We had accomplished what we wanted to by being involved in the service and on the active duty side. We had an opportunity to come back and be a part of my wife Hannah's family's farm operation and seed business. So in 2019, we transitioned back into those 2 portions, as well as my mother had married Chris Barron in 2015, who has been in the consulting space for about 30 years. And so we joined the AgView Solutions consulting side of the business that him and my mother, Alyssa, own and operate. And fast forward to today, we've continued to do a blend of both of those, have developed both sides of the business, grown strategically in a lot of areas. And that leads us up here to 2026.
Well, first off, thanks for your service. That's a super cool story, and appreciate all you've done for the country. So we got to start breaking into these businesses, Shay. There's so many things to dig into. I guess let's start with the farm. Maybe give us the lay of the land of your farming operation and what that entails currently.
Yep. So Marshall County, Illinois, the Illinois River is 2 miles out my window. I can't see it, but it's there. I know it is. And then I got a river bluff behind me. It's deep, lush soils. We average 34 to 36 inches of rainfall. throughout the year, some irrigation in different spots, but primarily row crops. There's actually some sweet corn, some pumpkin production in the area, some peas, but that's on a pretty limited scale. So we farm 1,500 acres. We are no-till, strip-till. I did a little bit of field cultivating today, so we're not, through and through, but primarily no-till, strip-till. And then we do cover crops on every acre. And that's as much of something that I believe and that I think is important, of having living roots and having ground cover out there. And I tell people, most of it is actually just being able to look out and see something green outside of the 6 months of a year that you normally have growing things. So that's the farm operation. And I should segue that into the seed business a little bit. So we are an independent seed business, primarily with soybean licensing. So we grow, condition, and package, and do wholesale and retail on the soybean side of the seed business. So we're growing identity protected soybeans in the farm operation. And then this year we're 100% non-GMO, white corn and yellow corn, that will go to some various markets, but identity protected there too. And that's, I think that's going to be a really good fit for us moving forward.
I'd love to get your perspective just on stick on the farming front a little bit. You're, a young, innovative farmer. You guys are doing no-till. What's been your perspective of everything that's happened in like regenerative agriculture? I feel like a lot of the OG no-till guys are like, hey, we've been doing no-till for forever, and now it's more popular. And there's been some recent debate online I've seen around, no-till, and is it actually good for the soil? And like the organic folks are calling out the no-tillers. Like, I'm just curious, like, what's been your perception of kind of this recent momentum around soil health, which I think a lot of people can agree on is valuable, but what's been your perception of how things have gone?
I'm going to stay hyper focused on like our area, and then I'll talk about the broader context. I mean, you can drive 50 miles and not see very many cover crop fields, and you can drive 50 miles and see very few no-till fields. There's a few farms in our area that do it. But generally speaking, the ground gets worked, you get in hydrosawn in the fall, and then you hit it again in the spring with your herbicide pass, and that's every acre everywhere. So when it comes to the nuances between, no-till or organic or regenerative or whatever else, I just look at the principles of what, if we went back 300 years ago and looked at this landscape, it was covered, it was prairie grass, there was a lot of wet areas, wildlife thrive. Is there any way that you can get close to mimicking that while still having a productive system? And if we can keep living roots out there, if we can, maybe keep some of that soil biology, I don't pretend to understand all that because it's such a complicated mess. No one understands it. No, and Kelly Garrett, he said the other day, it's like Avatar, you think of Avatar and you think all these connections, like that's real. That's a real thing that we just have no idea of how these things actually operate. So are we doing the best that we can? Are we focusing on creating a productive and a profitable outlook for our farm operation? To me, that's the ultimate sustainability, is you have to have the profitability. On the flip side of that, I think people are so against moving into a strip till or no till or doing something different, because in commodity row crop production, we have this survival mindset, and you feel that you have to survive. And I know I'm going to survive if I go out there and I till and I kill the weeds and then I spray the herbicide and then I plant the corn and then I spray it again. I'm going to survive. Well, I can't do anything different because I'm too afraid. Even if I'm making a bunch of money, that's a survival instinct. And so when you look at the regenerative, the organic, the no-till, I think if people felt that they weren't in survival mode constantly, they would do way more of that. If we were in a profitable enough landscape, people would do way more of it because intuitively or deep down, they know that there's a lot of benefits and a lot of good reason for doing it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of farmers are kind of stuck in the systems thinking where it's like, here's the program for corn or beans or watermelons, whatever it is, and like to deviate from that is a big risk. And like it's like we're just trying to survive the year. We're in a challenging farm economy. Like I don't want to rock the boat or disrupt. And it takes a lot of willpower to move against that line of thinking. Shay, want to jump into another business. You recently announced a new farm management app, Farm Profit Manager. So talk to us about kind of the origin story of the software and kind of your approach to it. I thought it was really cool about being low cost, and it's kind of a one-time fee versus a lot of software. It's like you're selling seats and it's this annual SaaS model. Like just talk to us about the origin story here.
Yeah. So Farm Profit Manager itself goes back to legacy, what was called Profit Manager. And I referenced Chris Barron earlier, my stepdad. In 1994, he sat down and started using DOS to build out a cost of production tool. And so when he got out of their family business, got out of hogs, they said, we need to know our numbers as well in the row crop production as we do in hogs. And no one was doing that to that extent at the time. So built it in DOS, transferred it to Excel, and then spent about 7 years getting farmer feedback on what they wanted to see to make good decisions within their cost of production. How are we doing marketing? How are we ensuring that we are doing things profitably and that we're looking out the windshield of our business and not just in the back end? So he spent 7 years doing that. And then basically from the early 2000s up until, when I came back to the business in 2019, it was just kind of steady as she goes, making changes, making improvements, and it saw many different iterations over time. It was at one point connected to live markets, and then people realized how much money they were losing every day and they didn't want to see that. It was very basic, and then we added in some levels of complexity. Overall, what we want is a very simple to use system where you can input the numbers and make key decisions looking forward in the business. You can run different scenarios. You can think about some of the bigger things that are occurring in the background. And, I guess when I think about how this develops and moving forward, we've had over the last 5 or 6 years, people ask us to put it into a software. And the timing was never right. One, we didn't want to spend a bunch of money. And two, I didn't have the brain power to do it until my brother and cousin, Sam and Mac, or Mac and Sam, who are at Iowa State currently, they said, hey, I think the time's now. We have all these synthetic intelligence tools to help us build it. Let's make that conversion. And so over the last 5 months, they've gone in, completely taken the foundation of Profit Manager legacy, turned it into Farm Profit Manager as a software, and said, hey, this is so powerful for the next generation or for those who are making key decisions here currently. And probably the biggest thing that we decided to do there was actually make it free. And so over time, what that had looked like is we actually had charged for the tool, but what we were charging for was the consulting. It was a one-time purchase, $2,500. You owned it for life in Excel. And then we would send you the updates as they came out. But you could call and pick up the phone. You could talk to Shay. You could talk to Chris. You could talk to anybody else on our team. And that was a completely different model. And that's what people were really buying, is they were buying access to the decision-making process on the back end. And so I wanted to lean into that and say, what do we want to be good at? Well, we want to be good at the consulting, and we want to be good at the human connection and the touch and helping people make decisions. The tool is part of it. And there's a ton of value in the tool. So we said, how do we open up our target market audience to make people more aware of the other things that we do? And the other things that we do really well is the succession and estate planning, the growth opportunity management, the collaborative opportunities. So if we can get people into a position where they get some of the financial stuff figured out and we make it easier for them to do, now we're making them aware of the services that we have that we're really good at, which is helping people work through those bigger challenges. And that's the heart and intent behind it, is you have 30 years of experience that's now built into a software. And by the way, when you call and need help with something, you have 5 consultants on the other end that farm. We live and breathe these decisions every day. We work with hundreds of operations across the US and Canada. We have that perspective to kind of help people with the different side of the business. So Farm Profit Manager is, it's been 30 years in the making. It's been 5 months in development. And we rolled it out here at the beginning of April, kind of to the masses. And from April 1st to April 10th, we had 1 million acres enrolled, and we're well beyond that as we record here today. So that tells me there's a huge demand for it. People want that low cost, no cost option, and to move away from the SaaS business model and say, how do we get back to connection? How do we get back to, the features that are making our business money, and so that we can focus on the other stuff?
Holy smokes. Okay. So much to dig in on. This is an incredible story. You're using this tool that you've, it's been years in the making and development and iteration that has informed this kind of new version. And it's really like a marketing tool. right? Or it's like a lead gen tool where you deploy it at scale for no cost, and then again it puts you in a position to find the right leads for this other component, the consulting piece. So I think did you always think that was the play? Did you was there inspiration for this model for someone? Like, how did you come to this conclusion? Because there's also the give the free version that doesn't have as many features, and then you can the freemium model. But like, how did you ultimately come to this conclusion?
A year ago, in my mind, was too early on the software development, and a year from now is too late. So I feel like right now was the perfect time, because we were at the juncture where the cost effectiveness of building the tool was so nominal with the value that we had to provide. And we're seeing a bunch of other tools that are launching that. And by the way, I love that people are building these tools. I think competition is great. I think that there's a ton of awesome services. We have always promoted all the other services that are out there as a SaaS model. If it helps you make better decisions in your business, I'm not negating the fact that there is value in those tools. So I think that's awesome. We've always encouraged people to do that. But what differentiated what we were doing is we have the team behind it. We have a team of farmers that has the heart to care for other people to help make the decisions. And so we put all of our chips on black and said, hey, we are going to lean into the fact that I think SaaS is dead in agriculture as we move forward. Outside of hyper specific data components, some of those things, there's definitely room for it. I think SaaS is dead. But we want to focus on the highest impact decisions that you're making in the business. So no, I had not always thought about it, and it was a big leap for our team. And by the way, it was a huge push too. They thought I was a little crazy. But with my military background, part of it is if I have 30 or 40% of the information, I'm going to make a decision, and we're going to figure it out, right or wrong. A lot of times it's going to be right. Most of the time it's going to be right. And if it's wrong, then we're going to adjust course and we'll do what we need to there. But what we've seen come out of that is, these organic things that happen that we didn't necessarily anticipate. So think of like, I think one of the biggest aspects that we're going to have as a feature moving forward is the ability to integrate with other businesses. So like lending institutions or marketing advisors or your agronomic decision makers, to where if you as a farmer, because your data is yours, you own it, you can shut off data sharing at any time. It's staying within us. We're not selling your data or doing anything stupid like that. If at any point you say, I as a farmer want to share with Tyler, who's my marketing advisor, or share with Tim, who's my lender, for us to be able to build out that you share your data of your cost of production, where are you at on marketing, how many sales have you made, what's your overall profitability outlook? And now as a lender, you have real-time access to your risk. And by the way, the farmer's already talking to you as a lender, as an advisor anyways. Why not use the tool that you're driving decisions from in your business to do that? So that has been one of the organic things that's come out of it. Another thing has been like the enterprise basis. So that, Tim, if you're managing 45 customers on precision agriculture stuff, and they don't have their cost of production piece figured out, they just want you to press the buttons and then tell them what their number is. Now you can go in and help them utilize that tool. So, no, it was not something that was on our mind, and it was a big leap for the team. It was a big push for our team too, from a timeline standpoint. But like I said, I felt that the time was right now. So I put my foot on the gas, and now that we've kind of launched and got everything set, I'm taking my foot off the gas, and we're really focused on development moving forward.
That's super cool. The adoption in a month is insane. How many acres you're on, that just speaks to the product that you built and the audience and network that you have to scale something up quickly. Shay, you talked a little bit about kind of being the right time right now, where the cost to build a platform like this are nominal. Like Ty and I have played around with vibe coding certain apps, and we've obviously built AgList and a few kind of internet-based sites. And maybe just talk to us about your approach about how you actually built the underlying platform.
Yeah. So Mac and Sam had done all the research, had done a bunch of building, and I've been playing with the AI stuff for about 2 years, and just saw the speed at which it was coming, and saw some of these programs roll out. And I was just amazed at it. So we're using Claude Code as a base, and then that's going into GitHub using Vercel and Supabase as the background, and then it's publishing to the front end. And then there's a bunch of code audits and checks and background and data security standpoints. And, there's about 10 or 12 systems that are kind of integrated in that. And, the thing that I tell people too is I think the word vibe coding has changed a lot in the last year. Because vibe coding used to mean like, hey, build me a website for, whatever, xyz.com. And it would do it, but it'd be kind of clunky or whatever. Now it's like, that's a 4-year tenured software development person that you have instant access to for $100 a month, utilizing Claude code to build out anything that you can frickin' imagine. The sky's the limit on what you can build and have an impact and be disruptive in the space if you choose to be. And so when you pair that with a good foundation and good tools, I think that's where the power comes in. And last, or another thing that I would mention on that is for us to have done that 3 years ago, and look at, not picking on anybody, but look at any of the businesses in the egg space over the last 7 years that have tried to build that. Very few have ultimately been successful or have had continuation, have spent millions and millions of dollars to do it, or hundreds of millions, pick and choose. Our team has spent about $15,000, including time and including a new laptop monitor and including a new, like something else, between Mac and Sam and their time. And then, we're not factoring our time into that necessarily, but like 1% or less than 1% of what it would have cost for us to do that 4 years ago. It's insane. That's an insane statistic.
100%. And that it's, I feel like it's hard for people to navigate this right now because, and I think like this is a classic two things are true at once situation where it's never been easier to build something. And that is a good thing and a bad thing, because I think some people think, well, I can just vibe code something and tomorrow I'm going to be a millionaire. And I think that they're missing a ton in the middle there. And I think like one is, you just talked about it. You've developed, I think, a pretty robust tech stack framework, right? Where you have data security, you have protections in place, and that's not trivial, right? And that requires, I think, just more than just chatting with Claude and something pops out. So that's one. And then two, more importantly, is I think now more than ever, I agree with you, the general consensus of SaaS is dead. I think that what now matters is distribution, right? If anyone can build FMS, a farm management software of some sort, if anyone can build that, then what's the differentiator? The differentiator is obviously how good the product is, yes, but it's probably most importantly is distribution. How do you get people's eyeballs on it? How do you get people to pay for it? And I think you have a competitive advantage through your network, your credibility, what you've built, and then obviously all the experience from the past several years of building in this space. Do you kind of agree with that consensus?
I do, absolutely. And there's a reason that I have leaned into this and leaned into the outreach. And it's ultimately, we can only consult with so many farm operations. So from the intent piece, what I want people to understand is, yes, we want to build brand awareness. We want to get good information, good data in there. But for why? Well, there's a point that we're going to get to really quickly here to where we're not going to be able to service everybody. So we might add consultants to our team, but that's a very selective process because you got to find the right people that have the right intent and the right location. There is so much more work and so many more slices of the pie than what I could ever eat. That's not the point. The point is not to get the most slices of the pie. The point is to help farm operations make better decisions. And we have the history and we have the consulting team to do that, at least at somewhat of a scale. It's the same reason that we started a podcast in 2019. We wanted to get better information to our clients, and that's completely free. It builds the credibility long-term, though, of, hey, we're providing value and perspective that helps your farm operation make decisions. It helps build the network to connect you with other people. We want to create that atmosphere where you're learning, you're being empowered, you're making better decisions long-term. And yes, the brand awareness is a huge part of that. Long-term, the other thing that I think is a piece that's not as considered with some of the other tools that are out there is, how do you service and support this long-term? How do you service and support the customer? And so the the sphere around us that we have built through the podcast and through the consulting and through the appearances on other shows, that is the continued support that doesn't exist in a lot of other places of, I want to serve as farm profit manager for the next 30 years of my career in whatever form that it is. I'm not looking at the next 3 months. I'm not looking at a subscription. I don't care about that. I care about the next 30 years of our career and the impact that we're going to have in my community, in our state, and on a national level. How do we do that?
Shay, we've talked about all the different things. We've talked about kind of the purpose you find in each of them, but talk to us a little bit about kind of how you personally manage your time, like being involved in a lot of these different things. Like I'm subject to it as well, like being involved in the farm and the podcast and AgList and Yield, all the things we have going. Like, how do you think about time management between all your various endeavors?
Well, I spend 50% of my time with the farm, 50% of my time with the seed business, 50% of my time with the consulting, 50% of my time, it's everything all at once. But I think the synergies kind of within what we're doing is you have the credibility because we farm and run the seed business, and those seasons kind of ebb and flow too. So even though I'm taking interviews and doing things kind of throughout the year, consulting related, when we're combining, I'm focused on combining, or when we're planting, I'm focused on planting, and I can pick up the phone, I can talk to clients, I can do everything. So the off season of farming, at least from a traditional Midwest row crop operation, is the busy consulting season. So my wife is like, "Oh, that's nice. You're just busy all the time." And I say that jokingly. We have fun with it. Hannah's awesome. But, as far as a balance goes, or how do I think about managing that moving forward? Because, I'm 32, we have 3 kids. We're trying to grow and do all these businesses, and my role becomes more critical in each of the businesses every year. I learned from Chris that, when he's 60 now, when he was 52, he started delegating more heavily. And he realized, as the business grows, I need to delegate. Well, I need to be where he is at 60 by the time I'm 35. And so how I'm managing that personally is delegating as much of the stuff that I can within our businesses to key employees, or to where the decisions that only I can make, I identify those. I'm going to make those decisions. If it's anything else, I'm going to figure out how I can get that off my plate. It empowers the team. It gives me oversight, and it helps me drive the businesses as we move forward. And, I guess one of my favorite sayings is time takes time. And so I think we just kind of figure it out as we go, and just have that patience. Where I am in my life and in my career, I'm not going to miss raising my kids to grow businesses. That doesn't matter to me. I had my girls with me when I was field cultivating today. It's April 24th. I could probably be planting right now, and I'm sitting in here in shorts and sandals, doing this podcast, because I think this is the most important thing that I can be doing right now. So I don't know. I think having that focus on, like, again, going back to like the kingdom purpose, what I want to do, where I'm spending my time, that's what I want to be focused on, and the other stuff, it's going to work itself out.
No, that's super, super inspiring. And I think that's, like, I've heard this said before. It's like, it's such a shame that, or it's just unfortunate that our, like, key earning years as adults coincide with, like, the perfect ages of our children, right? Like the golden ages of our children before they are teenagers. My daughters are never going to be teenagers. I'm not worried about it. But it is, like, I think going back to your initial point, it's like, I wrestle with this. I have this constant tension of maximizing this time and this opportunity and these critical earning years, with also not just running through it and not remembering and being present for my family. And I think that's, like, the tension that we all, especially entrepreneurs, have to go through and deal with. And it's cool to see how you're managing it. It's inspiring. Shay, as we wrap up, what's your food or ag hot take? Maybe a contrarian opinion you have within ag.
So I'm going to go back real quick, because, what you just said there is the key earning years paired with the businesses. The cool part is we have the ability to make that decision. And when you turn over decision-making power to someone else, you feel powerless. You feel that there's nothing that you can do. Well, guess what? There are things that we can do. We are going to homeschool our kids because we want more time with our kids and we want them to be involved with the businesses. I am going to plan out my travel and spend time with family. Every weekend from May 15th to September 15th this year, we're going to go to the lake and spend time with the kids. You can make those decisions. And I think, whether it's the survival piece of row crop agriculture that we were talking about, or how you manage your family and your time, or growing your businesses or whatever, give yourself the ability to make those decisions. And now the power lies with you. So I think that's something that like people should take the scales off their eyes and stop believing that everybody else is making those decisions for you. That probably leads in pretty well to, some of the food and ag hot takes. But I guess one of the things from the ag side that I would mention there is I think for a long time, agriculture as an industry has had an outsized voice for representation at the state level, at the federal level, from a policy and decision-making standpoint. And I think we're starting to feel or see that our voice is being diminished, even if it's just a little bit from what it was before. But because we were so outsized before, now we just have this feeling of like, what's going to happen, or how are we going to make decisions moving forward? And I'm here to tell you, you should probably buckle up and, look to the European Union and look to some of these other countries on what's going to happen in the future. And if we don't get ahead of some of the things as it relates to fertilizer and nutrient management, as it relates to how you conduct your practices and when, what are you growing, the quality of products, the quality of crops, some of that's going to get mandated. And then we're just going to be sitting in the trunk instead of in the passenger seat, or, ideally the driver's seat for some of these decision-making from a policy outlook standpoint. So I think that's probably my current hot take is like, you have to be proactive with some of this stuff. Otherwise we're just going to get all stick and no carrot.
Shay, this has been a ton of fun. I'm ready to run through a wall. I'm just so amped up by everything you're working on. As we wrap up, how can our listeners get in touch and connect with you?
Yeah. So we do a podcast that's called the Ag View Pitch. It's just for people to get some perspective. Like I said, we have a bunch of different topics on there, but they can go to farmprofitmanager.app if they want to check out the new app around cost of production, the new 30-year-old app, and then, agviewsolutions.com. That's the consulting services that we offer. I'm on X at FolkShay. Love connecting with people, and, appreciate the message that you guys are sharing, kind of the heart behind it. And thanks for having me on.
So Ty, what do you think?
I thought the coolest, there was a lot of amazing stuff in there, but I thought one just like tactical thing was I always nerd out on pricing models, and the fact that they intentionally like made the app free to use. There are some kind of premium versions you can use for integration, so they can monetize the app kind of at scale. But really, the app is free to get people in the door to sell their consulting services to. And I thought that was really smart. I mean, I think he's been really intentional about what he wants to build. Obviously, when you do that, you don't need to land as many customers, right? You don't need to get to 1 million customers on the app to have like a really profitable consulting business. Rather, you just take, the most lucrative ones that make the most sense, consulting gigs. And like he said, he's can max that out and he can choose to scale it or not. So I just thought that whole strategy was fascinating to me. And it was really cool to see what he's doing across all of his ventures. But hope you guys enjoyed that one. That was a lot of fun with Shay. If you're doing Murph, and you listen to this podcast, let me know. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn. Me, Tyler, not Tim. Shoot me a message. I want to know if you're doing Murph. A little accountability goes a long way. Training starts now, Tim.